Okay, this is the atomic theory. So when the Big Bang happened, there were these little things called quarks spread all around the world. And when these fuse together, they make things.
They created neutrons. And then over time, neutrons decayed, which is called beta decay, and created what is called protons
and electrons. So there are four
fundamental forces of nature.
One, there's the gravitational force, the electromagnetic force,
the strong nuclear, and the weak nuclear.
The gravitational force is one that we're all familiar with. It's the weakest force. And the electromagnetic force is what keeps the electrons in their shell and keeps them apart.
The strong nuclear is the strongest force. It is what keeps the protons and the neutrons together. Not exactly touching, but together. And the weak nuclear we're not going to talk about in this video, but it's very complicated. So this is the nucleus, and these are shells, like we talked about. The protons have a positive charge, and then the electrons have a negative charge, and then the neutrons have a neutral charge. No charge, because they're neutrons. They are neutral. Okay? Now we'll take it away.
What do I say? So the electrons are never in one place. This board demonstrates them as they're in one place, but they are constantly moving. There's never one set of electrons in a shell. Electrons come and go, and then new ones will come, and they're constantly moving around shells in different places. There are also electrons here, but we don't have enough to fit the whole thing.
Yes. So we know that the neutrons and the protons and the electrons are made of quarks. But is there different names for the quarks that they're made of? Like up quarks and down quarks. What are the quarks that they are made of? That's my question.
Any other questions?
What happens if you remove a proton, or you remove a neutron, or if you remove an electron? What would happen to the atom?
Any more questions for me?
Which way do the electrons move? Why do we need to know a theory if we don't know that it's actually true?
Well, say in a battery, and you have electrons that moves around as electricity, right? Well, do they go out with positive charge like a proton and come back with negative charge like an electron, so it accelerates and splits the atom?
What keeps the electrons from coming together?
Can a proton or a neutron be in this or not? I do not know.
Where does the parts that decay of the neutrons or protons, where do they go? Or how do they disappear?
How do scientists manipulate particles to make new atoms?
I have one last question. What is an unstable atom like?
How do the electrons decay?
Is there a name for electrons, protons, and neutrons?
Do they have specific names for each one of them? Like you would have a name for a scientific name for an animal. Do protons, neutrons, and electrons have scientific names too that we just don't know about?
What does the weak nuclear force do?
How do atoms of water act?
Can protons and neutrons come and go?
What's a strong nuclear and a weak nuclear?
What happens if two, I guess nucleuses come together and they're the exact same? What does that make?
If two atoms run into each other at a very high speed, would it create an explosion, or would it create a new atom altogether?
Any more questions?
I know that these are made of quirky thingies. What are these quirky thingies?
So
I've heard of these before, but I don't know what they are.
these are the quarks. And when the Big Bang happened, those fused together to make these, which are neutrons. Then the neutrons, over time, the neutrons decay, and they make protons and electrons.
Beta decay.
How do lots of these make all of these and then they decay into these and that? So one thing can make three other different things that make up more things. How is that?
I thought the universe was made up of atoms, so if there was quarks before there were atoms, then how did the universe exist before there were atoms? Just a question.
This is just a question I just thought of. Are quarks, if you put them together,
Quarks.
or when they make the protons, neutrons, and electrons, they can fuse together. It would be sort of like Lego bricks, putting them together, and then them making something else.
How big are they in order, which one's bigger and which one's smaller from the electrons, protons, neutrons, and quarks?
Any more questions?
Which one is bigger? Protons or neutrons? Because on this board they look the same, but I don't know if that's true or not, if they are actually that size. Or do they vary?